Welcome back to the Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the big three Microsoft directory services you absolutely have to know to navigate today's tech landscape. Whether you're wrangling on-prem hardware, managing massive cloud deployments, or sitting somewhere comfortably in the hybrid middle, having a rock-solid grasp of these identity and access management tools is essentially the entire cornerstone of modern IT.
So, why are we here? Well, if you're prepping for your next big IT interview or trying to architect modern client environments, clicking through a basic setup just doesn't cut it anymore. Employers don't just need you to know the how, they need you to deeply understand the why and the when of using these specific services. That conceptual gap is exactly what we're going to bridge today.
Here is how we are breaking it down. First, legacy on-premises ADDS. Then, the shift to Microsoft Entra ID. After that, we'll hit Entra Domain Services Pause, and we'll wrap it all up with the Cloud Engineer Toolkit. All right, Part 1, Legacy On-Premises ADDs, the hardware foundation. It is honestly wild to think about how far back this goes. 1995. We're talking dial-up internet days here, starting with NT Server and rolling right through Server 2019, 2022, and even looking ahead to 2025. It's a completely legacy method, sure, but the ability to configure Active Directory on an on-premises machine is just deeply, deeply baked into IT history. And the sheer amount of manual effort, oh man, you definitely cannot just spin this up with a quick click in the cloud. You're dealing with high-end bare metal machines. You've got to manually install the OS, install the ADDS roles, map out multiple IP configurations, and then, crucially, promote that role before you ever even see a configuration wizard. And the heavy lifting definitely doesn't stop after installation. Once promoted, you're flying solo without a shiny cloud portal to help you out. It's entirely on you to manually manage users, configure groups, and sort out your organizational units. And if your company decides to open up new branch offices in different cities, guess who's manually configuring those multiple sites? Yep, it's all hardware dependent, and it is all on your shoulders. Okay, let's pivot to Part 2, the shift to Microsoft Entra ID. Now listen up, because this is a massive detail for your next interview. Do not call it Azure Active Directory anymore. Seriously, scratch that from your vocabulary right now. Microsoft officially rebranded it to Microsoft Entra ID. And if you're discussing cloud identity today, that is the absolutely only term you should be dropping. So unlike those clunky bare metal setups we just talked about, Entra ID is pure SaaS, software as a service. This completely flips the script on management. No hardware to rack, no OS to patch. You're just tapping directly into Microsoft's incredibly robust, ready-to-go software platform. And this SaaS model, it basically gives you superpowers straight from the Azure portal. You want to sync on-prem users or spin them up natively in the cloud? Easy. Plus, you get heavy hitters like role-based access control, conditional access, instantly deployable MFA, and self-service password resets. It is an absolute game changer for user management. But, and this is a massive gotcha in modern IT design, Entra ID does have a very specific limitation. It cannot, I repeat, cannot convert your legacy Windows 10 workgroup machines into traditional domain members. You can do an Azure AD join, sure, but shifting an on-prem box from a workgroup to a classic domain, that is simply not what Entra ID was built to do. Which brings us perfectly to Part 3, Entra Domain Services PaaS, the golden mean.
Enter Microsoft Entra Domain Services. This steps in as your PaaS, or Platform as a Service. It's basically the ultimate bridge, giving you complete Active Directory domain services capabilities without having to lug around all that on-premises hardware.
And the shared responsibility model here is where the PaaS magic really happens. Microsoft shoulders a whopping 75% of the underlying infrastructure and availability tasks. That leaves you responsible for just the remaining 25%, basically just managing your specific configs, your policies, and your users. It is just an incredibly efficient way to run a domain. So, what is the actual payoff? Well, you can spin up highly secure VMs in the cloud and seamlessly pull over your synced Entra ID users. It is literally perfect for establishing a flawless Azure Virtual Desktop infrastructure, zero hardware maintenance to sweat over. Plus, once you provide your basic info, Microsoft gets your cloud-based domain controller entirely ready in about 45 minutes. 45 minutes versus days of racking servers, there's really no contest. Grasping this exact contrast is absolutely crucial for mastering modern architecture. Entra ID, that's your SaaS user manager. Amazing for identities and MFA, but it won't do legacy domain joins. Entra Domain Services, that's your PaaS domain controller, bringing the full weight of legacy domain capabilities straight into the cloud. Knowing exactly when to pull which lever is what makes you a top-tier engineer. Finally, Part 4, the Cloud Engineer Toolkit and Market Reality. Let me pull a quote directly from our source material because it hits the nail on the head perfectly. Companies want to hire engineers who know about on-premises AD, Microsoft Entra ID, and Microsoft Entra Domain Services. If you walk into an interview swinging only your legacy on-prem knowledge, you're going to have a bad time. Today's hybrid world demands absolute fluency in all three of these systems to build out robust solutions. So the tools are laid out, and you've got the conceptual map of how these three heavyweights interact. But here is the real question I want to leave you with. As the entire industry sprints aggressively toward a pure cloud future, how much longer do you think legacy on-prem AD is actually going to survive in your server room? Take these concepts, apply them to your next project, go crush that interview, and we'll see you in the next explainer.